Have you ever shared something personal with your family, only to later wish you hadn't? Maybe it was a financial decision, a passing health concern, or even just an honest opinion in the middle of a family disagreement. At the time, it felt like the right thing to do. After all, they're your loved ones. But then, the judgment came, the unsolicited advice, the shift in how they looked at you, and suddenly something that was yours, private, peaceful, became everyone else's business. As we get older, we often feel that being completely open with our family is a sign of trust, love, and transparency. And in many ways, that's true. But what if I told you that full transparency isn't always the wisest path? What if keeping some things to yourself isn't about hiding, but about protecting your peace, your independence, and your dignity? In this stage of life, your time and energy are more valuable than ever. You've lived through decades of experience, built a life, raised a family, and learned countless lessons, some the hard way. And now you deserve the right to manage your own affairs without second-guessing, interference, or pressure. That's why in today's video, we're diving into a topic that doesn't get talked about enough. 5 things you may want to keep to yourself after age 65. This isn't about shutting people out. It's about being selective, intentional, and wise. Because the truth is, oversharing can backfire. It can open the door to stress, over-involvement, and even family tension that was never necessary to begin with. We'll explore why keeping certain topics private, like finances, health issues, or even past regrets, can actually strengthen your relationships, not weaken them. We'll also talk about how staying quiet in the right moments can give you more freedom, more peace of mind, and more control over the way you're treated and remembered. So before you share that next piece of personal news, take a moment, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Make sure you stick around until the end. What you hear today could change the way you interact with your family, and more importantly, how you protect your own well-being in these golden years. Let's get started. 1. Your financial decisions and personal assets. Why privacy matters more than ever. Let's talk about money, one of the most personal and yet most misunderstood topics in any family. Now you might be thinking, I have nothing to hide. Why wouldn't I be open about my finances with my kids or grandkids? But here's the truth no one tells you. The moment you lay your full financial life on the table, something shifts. The way people see you changes, sometimes subtly, sometimes drastically. And unfortunately, it's rarely for the better. You might have worked hard your whole life, saved wisely, and taken pride in being financially independent. But once your family knows the details, how much you've saved, what you're worth, what you plan to leave behind, that information has a way of sticking in their minds. Even if they mean well, it can create invisible pressure and expectations you never asked for. You may hear comments like, "Shouldn't you be saving more for the grandkids? Why are you still spending money on travel?" Maybe it's time to downsize and be more practical. What started as a simple, open conversation can suddenly turn into a judgment session, where your choices no longer feel like your own. And that's not all. Sometimes when people discover that you have a comfortable nest egg, they start treating you a little differently. A relative who was never very present suddenly becomes extra attentive. A child who once respected your independence now feels justified in helping you make financial decisions you didn't ask for help with. Even your most well-meaning family members might unknowingly begin to see your finances as part of their future, not just yours. On the flip side, if you're going through a financial rough patch, maybe dealing with rising healthcare costs, home repairs, or simply living on a tighter budget, sharing too much can also backfire. You may find yourself getting constant advice, unwanted worry, or worse, family members second-guessing your ability to manage your own life. Your financial choices are deeply personal. You have every right to spend your money on what brings you joy, whether it's that monthly art class, your church donation, or a trip to see the ocean one more time. You've earned that right. Now, that's not to say you should avoid all financial conversations. It's smart to have a clear estate plan, a will, and someone you trust to handle affairs if anything unexpected happens. But that doesn't mean you need to open your bank statements to the family group chat. Remember, boundaries are not walls. They're fences with gates you control. And when it comes to money, you deserve the freedom to keep the gate closed unless it truly needs to be open. Protecting your privacy isn't about secrecy. It's about preserving your independence, your peace of mind, and the respect you have worked hard to earn. So next time someone asks about your retirement savings or hints about an inheritance, it's perfectly okay to say, "I've got it taken care of. Thanks for asking, but I'm comfortable with where things are." Because in this season of life, you don't owe full disclosure. You owe yourself peace. 2, health concerns that aren't urgent. When silence is a kindness, let's be honest, our bodies change as we age. There are more creaks in the knees, more stiffness in the mornings, and sometimes an ache that comes and goes without explanation. These little reminders of time passing are normal, even expected. So when something doesn't feel quite right, our first instinct is often to talk about it, especially with family. It makes sense. They love us, they worry, and they want to help. But here's something that many of us have learned the hard way. Not every little health issue needs to become a family discussion. Why, Teresa? Because what you say in passing might stay with them longer than you think. You might casually mention that your back's been sore this week, or that you've been feeling a little more tired than usual, and suddenly it's a big deal. They're calling every day, asking if you've gone to the doctor. They're Googling symptoms, sending you vitamin ads, trying to schedule appointments you didn't ask for. Before you know it, a minor issue has turned into a full-blown intervention. And while it all comes from a place of love, it can start to feel overwhelming. Sometimes it even feels like they're taking control of your health decisions before you've had a chance to make them yourself. It's not just the pressure either. There's also something more subtle, but just as powerful: perception. The more you talk about your health, especially the minor stuff, the more your family may begin to see you as fragile, not just physically, but emotionally. They might stop inviting you on trips, assume you can't handle stress, or begin tiptoeing around you like you're a glass vase on a windy shelf. And that's not how you see yourself, is it? You're still capable. You're still in charge of your life, and you deserve to be seen that way. Now, don't get me wrong, major health concerns should absolutely be shared with your family. If you're dealing with something serious, or if you need support, your loved ones have a right to know. But those everyday aches, the small discomforts, the things that come and go, you don't have to report every one of them. Keeping those details to yourself isn't being dishonest. It's being wise. It's protecting your independence, your peace, and your image. And perhaps most importantly, it's giving your family the gift of not worrying about things that aren't worth worrying about. You've been managing your health for decades. You've been through colds, flus, sprains, surgeries, and everything in between. You know the difference between something to watch and something to act on. So trust yourself. If your knees are sore from gardening, take a hot bath and rest. If you're feeling a little tired, take it easy for a day. You don't need to sound the alarm every time your body whispers, because when you stay calm, confident, and in control, your family will follow your lead. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say, nothing at all. 3, your true thoughts on family conflicts. Why staying neutral protects your peace. If there's one thing life teaches us, it's that family conflict is almost inevitable. Someone's feelings get hurt over a holiday invitation, a sibling disagreement over an inheritance, an argument between adult children that's been simmering for years. And more often than not, you find yourself stuck in the middle, not because you chose to be, but because everyone wants your opinion. They trust you. They value your wisdom. They believe you'll take their side. But here's the thing, taking sides rarely brings peace. It usually brings more pain. You might think you're helping, offering a little advice here, a bit of perspective there. But when emotions are running high, even the most well-meaning words can come back to haunt you. One sibling hears what you said about the other. A comment gets repeated, twisted, taken out of context. Suddenly, instead of being the calming voice of reason, you're accused of favoritism, of taking a side, of not understanding. It hurts, and it's exhausting. Family drama has a gravitational pull. Once you step in, even with good intentions, it's hard to step back out. And let's be honest, at this stage in life, you've earned the right to protect your peace. You've likely spent decades caring for others, navigating relationships, resolving conflict, holding people together. Now, you get to choose where your energy goes. And pouring it into arguments you didn't start and can't fix isn't the best use of that energy. Sometimes silence is the wisest answer. That doesn't mean you have to pretend everything's fine or deny your feelings. It just means you don't always have to express them out loud, especially when doing so might deepen a rift or prolong the drama. Let's say your daughter complains about her brother. You might agree with some of what she's saying, but if you say so, even gently, you risk that becoming ammunition in the next fight. And once you're in the crossfire, there's no easy way out. Or maybe your adult children are arguing about parenting styles. You might have strong opinions about who's right, but is it worth speaking them if it means one of them starts avoiding your calls or visits? In these moments, the smartest thing you can say might be, "I love you both and I hope you work it out." Or, "You know what's best for your family. I trust your judgment." It's not about dodging the issue, it's about protecting your relationships. Because when the dust settles, and it almost always does, what people remember isn't always who was right. They remember who made them feel seen, respected, and safe. By staying neutral, you offer something even more powerful than advice: emotional refuge. A place where no one feels judged. A space where love isn't conditional on opinions or outcomes. That's the kind of presence that holds families together, quietly, gently, wisely. So the next time drama comes knocking, don't feel guilty for choosing not to open the door. You're not avoiding it. You're choosing peace over participation. And sometimes that's the strongest, most loving choice you can make. 4. Regrets from the past. Why some reflections are best kept private. As we grow older, we all find ourselves looking back. We remember the jobs we took and the ones we didn't. We think about the things we said and the things we wish we had, the moments we missed, the paths we didn't follow, the decisions we'd change if given the chance. Regret is part of being human. It means you cared. It means you tried. It means you lived. But here's something few people talk about. Sharing your regrets, especially with family, doesn't always bring healing. Sometimes it brings unintended hurt. You might believe you're simply being honest, reflecting on your life with wisdom. But for those listening, especially your children or grandchildren, your words can feel personal in a way you didn't expect. Let's say you mention, "I wish I hadn't worked so much when you were little." You might mean it as a loving reflection, but your child might hear, "You missed out on my childhood, and now it's too late." They may start wondering, "Was I not enough? Did I make life harder for you?" Or maybe you say, "If I had moved to California like I planned, things might have turned out better." To you, it's just a thought, but to your family, it can sound like regret over the life you built together. Even talking about past relationships, an old flame, a lost friendship, a different dream, can stir emotions in those who love you now. They may begin to wonder if they were second best or if your heart was never fully here. And none of that is what you intended. The truth is your family sees you as strong, resilient, the one who made it all work, even when it wasn't easy. When you focus too much on regrets, even with the best of intentions, it can cloud that image. Instead of being the steady presence they turn to, you risk becoming a source of guilt, sadness, or emotional confusion. Of course, reflecting on your past is healthy. It's part of growing wiser. But not every thought needs to be said out loud. Not every moment of honesty needs an audience. Some feelings are better journaled, or spoken in prayer, or shared with a trusted friend who understands the difference between reflection and confession. Because dwelling out loud can sometimes place a burden on those who weren't meant to carry it. Your family can't change what happened, and in many cases they didn't cause it. So why leave them with the weight of something they had no part in? If you must share, focus on what you've learned, not what you wish you could undo. Instead of "I regret how I handled things," you might say, "Looking back, I've learned a lot about what matters most." That simple shift can turn pain into perspective and invite connection instead of distance. In the end, regrets are like stones. You can carry them or you can build with them. But handing them off to others rarely helps anyone. You've earned the right to find peace with your past. Let your legacy be one of wisdom, not wounds. 5. The full picture of your finances. Why oversharing can change everything. We've already talked about financial decisions earlier in this video, but this one goes a step further because it's not just about how you spend your money. It's about how much you reveal and what that revelation does to your relationships. Here's the hard truth that most people learn too late. The moment your full financial picture is out there, everything changes. Let's say you've saved well. You've lived within your means, invested wisely, and you're now enjoying the fruits of decades of hard work. That's something to be proud of. But once your family knows you're financially secure, things can shift. You might notice subtle changes. A relative becomes more interested in your future plans. Someone makes a passing comment like, "Well, you won't have to worry about money, right?" Or a grandchild starts hinting at college expenses with a tone that's half joking and half not. It doesn't always come from greed. Sometimes it's just human nature. But once people see what you have, they start imagining what it could mean for them. And that can quietly erode your sense of independence. Suddenly, your choices are questioned. Why are you still living in that house? Wouldn't it make more sense to gift that money now instead of later? What was once your business becomes family discussion. Now flip the script. Let's say you're going through a rough patch. Maybe rising healthcare costs have hit hard. Maybe the market downturn affected your investments. You mention it out of honesty, and now your loved ones worry. Constantly, they call more often. They ask about your spending. They might even question your decision-making. Are you sure you can afford that trip? Maybe someone should help you handle your bills. Again, it comes from love. But it can start to feel like you're being monitored instead of respected. Here's the key point. Whether you have more than enough or not quite enough, sharing everything invites assumptions, expectations, and sometimes control. And in this season of life, control is sacred. You've earned the right to manage your affairs without outside pressure. You deserve the freedom to make financial decisions based on what brings you joy, not on how others might react. Now, this doesn't mean you should hide your finances completely. It's smart to have an estate plan, a will, maybe a trusted financial advisor or power of attorney who understands your wishes. But not everyone needs to know every detail. Your children don't need to know how much is in each account. Your siblings don't need to know what your house is worth. Your extended family doesn't need to guess what they might inherit. When you keep the full picture to yourself, you're not being secretive, you're being wise. You're protecting your autonomy, your peace of mind, and perhaps most importantly, your relationships from being defined by dollar signs. Because in the end, your legacy shouldn't be measured by how much money you left behind, but by how you lived, how you loved, how you were respected, and keeping your financial life private. That's just one more way to protect all three. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with this thought. Keeping certain things to yourself doesn't mean you're hiding. It means you're choosing peace over pressure, wisdom over impulse, and dignity over drama. In a world that tells us to speak our truth at every moment. There's a quiet strength in knowing when not to speak, when to hold something close, when to protect your peace instead of handing it away. Because the older we get, the more we realize not everything needs to be shared to be valid, and not every opinion needs to be heard to be respected. Whether it's your finances, your health, your memories, or your regrets, you have the right to decide what's yours to carry and what's worth passing on. That's not secrecy, that's self-respect. That's wisdom earned through a life well lived. So the next time you wonder, should I bring this up? Take a breath and remember, sometimes silence isn't avoidance, it's protection. Has there ever been a time you kept something to yourself and later realized it was the best decision you could have made? Leave a comment below and share your story or your thoughts. Your voice just might help someone else find peace in their own journey. And if you found this video helpful, inspiring, or simply comforting, please give it a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a video like this again. Your support helps us keep creating honest, heartfelt content for people just like you. Thanks for spending this time with us. Take care of yourself and protect your peace. We'll see you in the next one.